number of years, the county's financial situation, continuing efforts to align costs with revenues. One of the things that we've looked at periodically and continue to monitor closely is the cost and benefit of county participation in regional bodies and regional activities. This is true in the area of transportation and in the areas of planning, economic development, and other areas of interest. Today we're here to talk about the county's relationship with Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, and I'm going to turn it over to Kirk Storm to take it from here.
Thanks, Larry. A few things we're going to talk about today: the articles of agreement that we recently worked on. Also received a draft budget, kind of a few comments on it, and then just overall look at the services we received from Tri-County. I just wanted everybody to introduce themselves. I have members of our planning commission here today, and also members from the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission that we appoint to serve on full commissions.
I'm Scott Weiland. I currently serve as the chairman of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, and of course I'm a delegate to that body from Cumberland County.
I'm John Alonsi. I am the representative for Western Cumberland County with the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission.
Rod Clayton, I'm on the County Planning Commission.
Barb Wilson, I'm on the County Planning Commission.
John Eppley, I'm also on the County Planning Commission.
All right, so I asked the folks to come today to make a few comments about their perspective on the articles of agreement and also the organization as a whole. I just wanted to lead off with a couple of comments, how we got to where we're at today, and then some of the observations I have as well. So we started to take a look at the articles of agreement earlier this year. This year kind of kicked off February, March timeframe. We were looking at the Tri-County, looking at the value that we're receiving from the organization, also the organizational structure itself. We recognize that maybe the organizational structure isn't as efficient as it could be, and that changes in that organizational structure may result in changes to the overall organization, which then will show more value, maybe be a little more grassroots oriented towards us. So we went through a process. Scott Weiland, as chairman, has done an excellent job. He appointed a subcommittee. I was involved in that along with Skip Murray from Dauphin County and Commissioner Naylor from Perry County. We worked over a series of months to put together the articles of agreement, the proposed articles of agreement that you have that I've provided to you. At our last meeting of the, Rick Trinowski, he's also on the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission and a member of our County Planning Commission. So as we worked through the articles of agreement, we finished those, and then trying to think my August meeting of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, Commissioner Hertzler, Rick and I were there, discussed these with the other counties. Despite efforts to try and get those articles of agreements to the other counties to have feedback and review at that meeting, it didn't happen. The other counties are currently looking at them and supposedly will provide feedback to us at tomorrow's regional commission meeting. Some of the discussion at the meeting, though, were centered around some of the changes, and I'll give you a highlight some of those changes. One of the issues that we had seen was the membership. The organization was comprised of 31 members, and it had two committees, an executive committee and then a full commission. The full commission met on a quarterly basis, and then the executive committee met on a monthly basis. Not really quite sure what the full commission did. There was just a lot of ratification of actions that were already taken place. The executive committee really seemed to kind of oversee the organization. What we had proposed in the articles of agreement was to take it from 31 members down to 12 members. 12 members we believe was more manageable. It represented more of a county focus, given that this is a county organization that we're focused on serving the counties then serve the municipalities. So we proposed downgrading the numbers from 31 to 12. We also proposed making the officers of the organizations the chairman of the county planning commissions or their designee. So that, again, you have that insight and opportunity for the county planning commissions to really have kind of a governing control over the organization, where it's headed, mission goals, objectives, things like that. We also made some other changes to quorum, things to go along with the downgraded number of members. The one issue that admittedly, I think it didn't get changed, which I believe was unfortunate and still is an issue, is the financing of the organization. When you look at the regional component of the organization, the administrative costs and the non-project costs are supposed to be funded 39% Cumberland County, 43 Dauphin County, 17 Perry County. When I asked where that number came from, no one knows. At the last meeting I looked at it, they have no idea. We had suggested through this process, well, maybe we should change it a third, given that there are administrative costs, everyone benefits equally. That wasn't received very warmly. Had also suggested developing an overhead rate, so that when staff work on projects, those administrative costs are captured in an overhead rate, then get charged to the counties that are requesting that work. That didn't go anywhere. So I think there's an agreement just to leave it the way it is, and see what feedback we get from our elected officials when we bring it back. That's one issue that I don't believe is resolved to any sort of satisfaction. I think we still have the issue in place of exactly how we fund these administrative costs. The issue I have with the administrative costs is they're not linked to the services being provided. The last 2 years, Tri-County has provided no regional planning services to Cumberland County, yet we continue to pay the administrative costs of the organization. But yet we're receiving no regional planning service from the organization.
Staff is what, 13?
I believe, Lauren, I'm not sure what the
I mean, that's the number I've kind of been using. Does anybody know
I
for
think
sure?
that's about right, but I don't know.
Okay, I mean, that's, in my mind, that's where my, I'm sort of
So when you look at it, this is the region, we're talking about the regional planning aspect of the organization. There's transportation planning that's over here, Harrisburg Area Transportation Study, separate board, separate membership. I believe we've been receiving pretty good service over there. We'll see what we're getting for our money. Pleased with that. It's regional planning pieces that is another issue. And even with the administration of the organization, we're administering, not quite sure what we're administering, but we know that we're not getting any services provided to us simply because we don't need it. There's a couple other comments there. As you look through the Articles of Agreement, you can see some of the changes that what we've made. But I think today I wanted to get any comments that the board may have on this. But really, as I look at this and moving ahead, I see a 3-point test that Tri-County really has to meet. The first is that the other counties hopefully would adopt these Articles of Agreement as submitted. That when you look at it, we would put a good faith effort forward to do that. I'm not sure where they stand. We had some discussion about folks not liking to decrease the number of representatives on Tri-County. Not sure where the counties are at. The other 2 points of the test I think will be equally important, because what we're looking at is changing the organizational structure of the organization. That may or may not change the organization itself, and that's where I think I have my larger concerns. The other 2 points of the test, the first point would be that the budget, the 2016 budget, will be submitted in the format that's in the Articles of Agreement. We outlined the process and the format of how that be submitted. The third test would be then that budget request conforms with the Articles of Agreement, but also shows value for Cumberland County. So that 3-point test, I think there are three points that Tri-County will have to meet for us to consider that we're truly partners in the organization and getting value from it. Unfortunately, we received their draft budget for 2016 earlier this week. I looked at it. It's unfortunate that the budget does not even comply with the existing Articles of Agreement. Despite the excessive conversation we had at the executive committee level, the other levels of Tri-County, the expectation for accountability and transparency and value were clearly articulated. The new budget does not conform to those as well. On top of all that, the new budget has a $20,000 increase for Cumberland County regional program, while Dauphin County and Perry County enjoy decreases in the regional program. So as I look at that, and I look at my 3-point test, I'm seeing clearly that 2 of those points aren't being met. And it's not like this is the first time we've discussed this issue. I've been here since 2003. We discuss this every single year. To a fault, and I'll admit to a fault, I've given these guys a lot of chances and probably a little opportunity to try and improve what they're doing, and given them pretty clear guidance on what we'd like to see. And if we see that there's opportunities to continue to work with us, especially with this 2016 budget, how anyone can say that they're not aware of our issues, not aware of our expectations is beyond me. So as we move ahead and talk more, I'm going to give our planning commission members the opportunity to speak. But I believe that the Articles of Agreement are one thing. We could change those. The organizational structure may change. At the end of the day, I don't believe the organization is going to change. I think it's pretty clear from the treatment we received in the past and the proposed treatment we're seeing in 2016. And I think if that were to continue, it would be my recommendation to withdraw from the organization.
I think it's crystal clear from the frustration in your voice. Okay, so your 3-point, sort of test there, it's sort of like the rotary 4-point test, whatever. I made it pretty clear where I stand on this, so.
Kirk, just 2 points. One, we're the only county in Tri-County that has its own planning.
That's correct.
Okay. Yet in the new budget, our portion of paying in is higher.
For the regional program, yes.
Okay. So that seems a little bit high. And second, when you talk about I mean, you know, it's like the old Walt Kelly comic Pogo. We met the enemy, and is it us or is it somebody else? So we have all these folks in the room who I'm assuming there are our reps and are working in Cumberland County's best interest. The issue, I take it, is not with our board members or the leadership of the board, it's with the Tri-County administration. Is that a good way to put it?
Well, the needs-based budget, which we hear continuously about in other agencies, making immediately with children and youth, and sort of that evidence-based then results. What's a needs-based budget? Who provided the need? Or is this coming from the top down as to, I need $150,000 as opposed to, we need you to provide $35,000 worth of service?
And Bart,
I mean-
that's a good point, because it is a top-down approach. You know, we received this budget. We weren't consulted with what our needs were. There was no discussion of what the region may need, what we'd be willing to pay. When you look at the Articles of Agreement, that's how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to request services from them, not be proposed a series of services that we may or may not want. And what we had outlined in the Articles of Agreement was that services should include a scope of work, a schedule, a staffing plan, and costs. I look at this, there's, you know, a page and a half of bullets. And, you know, when I read something we're supposed to pay for that reads, provide support to leadership to help coordinate the regional growth management plan, define priorities. What does that mean? How much does that cost? But it's littered with those types of single sentence statements that really show no value or show no results for what we're doing. And as we look as a county, the money we're putting out to our other partner agencies, when they come in, there's a pretty high expectation when they come in here, they're making a good budget submission that shows results. I don't believe we can treat one organization differently from the rest of the folks coming in here. They need to be held to the same standard. And honestly, I mean, this standard clearly has been missed, and it's not the first time they've submitted it. It's missed on a repeated basis despite our suggestion for approval.
Kirk, have you had any discussion with them at all regarding the budget proposal that you received? You've not been in
No,
touch?
I mean, it's presumably will be discussed tomorrow at the executive committee meeting.
This clearly represents a walk back from progress that we thought we made last year. And it just seems like we're owed an explanation on that, but it seems somewhat baffling that they would not call you up and say, hey, this is where we're going with this, much less they ask for input on it now it's developed. But so we've had no contact with them as to what this is.
Outside of Harrisburg Area Transportation Study meetings and the Tri-County Executive Committee meetings, I've talked to their staff over there probably 3 times this year. And we look at consulting relationships, the other consulting relationships we have in the county and projects we're working on that show results, number one, but also those relationships, I'm in contact with those folks at least on a daily basis because they recognize what we're applying. I don't feel like applying the organization. I feel like a funder of the organization, not applying.
So, Kirk, would you, two things, I'd like to give our other folks a chance to speak here. Just first question is food deserts in there?
Okay. Not yet, I mean, who knows?
The second question, would you consider this budget their answer to our requests for change?
I don't know. I can't speak for them. I mean, I think we've made our expectations very clear. And they've seen that, they've heard that. You know, I was on the board, Chris Narr was on the board for a long time. We've made our expectations very clear, and there's just not change. So if Dauphin County are happy with the service, Dauphin and Perry are happy, fine. I mean, I really encourage them to stick with it. If they want to work with us, we can work with Dauphin and Perry County. It doesn't have to cost us $80,000 a year. We work with York County, Adams County, Franklin County. It doesn't cost us a cent. Adams County, this week sent over a note, they're doing a training session, they want to coordinate with us. No cost, send out their municipalities. Many of our municipalities are taking advantage of it. These guys, there's charges in here. We're going to do training sessions. Comes along with an $80,000 price tag.
Kirk, this is just, for a lot of folks, this is the first time that they hear about this issue, but this issue's been around for a long time. In fact, we've talked about promoting change with them very actively, going back, I guess, probably as far as 04, 05, when we had to really push them to go into the one and only strategic planning retreat they were held, and that was like pulling teeth to get there. And the outcome of that was supposed to be clearly established goals and eventually lead to development performance measures. Same thing we've been doing with a number of our agencies and other contractors. So we had the one setup, the one retreat. We had some draft documents go back and forth. Now, at that point, they were under Jim Zaborski, different leadership then. In the time since then, we have the new leadership over there. Would you say that the current leadership there is fully aware of the history of this issue, and would you characterize them as better or worse than what we had when we first started this issue?
They're fully aware of the issue. You know, I met with the leadership over there. In fact, a couple of years ago, I reached out to them and said, hey, we need to fix this issue. Let's meet on a quarterly basis, and we did. Talked about all the different issues. It didn't result in pursuing any additional projects. So that's the issue. If these projects are out here, we're ready and willing to work on them, but we can do so at no cost. There's no requirement to pay. In terms of better or worse, I wouldn't want to make a comparison, but I can assure you that what we're seeing here is clearly the leadership isn't understanding and unable to meet our needs.
Okay, as the liaison to the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, maybe I could get a word in edgewise here, but, you know, as Mr. Eichelberger said, this is not new. There has been a very concerted effort made since March to try to see whether or not we can work this out in an amicable way, to see whether or not we can have some of the questions that we've had addressed, you know, in a responsible way. And I want to commend Kirk and also Scott Weiland, who's our representative and also chairman of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. Scott actually chaired the subcommittee that came up with the recommendations to try to get us to the point where we could, you know, have a new understanding. And I would like to ask Scott, if he could at this point in time, just kind of give your observations as to where you think we are, where we come from. And now, relative to the budget that Kirk just brought up, we just received that. We just got email, you know, the other day. There's been no discussion about the budget. There is an executive committee meeting, you know, scheduled with Tri-County tomorrow. So I don't know what all went into their decision. I mean, certainly, you know, it appears it's heading in the wrong direction of what we're interested in. But before I turn it over to Scott, I want to review something here. I think it's important. You know, it was in 2003 when Cumberland County, you know, created its own planning department. So that was 12 years ago. Before that time, when I was a township commissioner in East Pennsylvania, we all relied on Tri-County. The three counties relied on Tri-County to serve as our planning departments. It is a unique organization in that in Pennsylvania, I think there's one other entity that's a multi-county planning department. I think that's in Lehigh Valley, Lehigh and Northampton County. But by and large, most of the counties in Pennsylvania have their own individual planning departments. So the decision was made long before I became a county commissioner back in 2003, and I think it might even have been before Commissioner Eichelberger's service. Decision was made that we should have our own planning department in Cumberland County. Now, over those years, there was a significant outlay of funds from Cumberland County for Tri-County. It was back in 2003, Cumberland County contributed $278,000 to the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. And then it was over $200,000 up until $240,000 in 2010. And then, you know, I took office in 2012. The contribution from Cumberland County was reduced down to $71,000 in 2013, and then in 2014 it was $81,000, and this year it's $103,000. What they're suggesting now for next year, if we were to go with this budget, I believe, is that we would be looking at about $123,000 from Cumberland County. One of the things that if we would consider the withdrawal, it's been very important to me, and I think should be important to all of us, is, how does this impact our transportation funding to our local municipalities, to Cumberland County as a whole? And Tri-County Regional Planning Commission is the administrator for the Harrisburg Area Transportation Study, which is the MPO. So, one of the things that we've talked, Kirk and I have talked, and that is to receive assurances from both the state and the federal government that our withdrawal from Tri-County should not impact our transportation funding, what we're owed our fair share of transportation funds. So those are all considerations that we have to keep in mind with respect to whatever action we take here. But under this scenario, if we were to withdraw, essentially we would not pay the $80-some thousand that they suggested we pay for the Regional Planning Commission, but that we would continue to pay the $41,000, which is in the budget, for the transportation-related services that Tri-County provides. So with that, I would like Scott's input here. Scott has worked very hard on this, and I know, Skip Memmy and Steve Naylor and Kirk were also at the table. I think it's important to get your perspective on things. So.
Thanks, Commissioner. We did make a concerted effort to try to revise the Articles of Agreement, which hadn't been touched in a couple of decades, really, to match the current values that the three members brought to the commission and the services they were looking for. And it's certainly disappointing that at the end of the process, it doesn't appear that that's resulted in the significant changes that the group was looking for. But all three counties participated in good faith in that subcommittee effort to try to revise these Articles of Agreement and make it more user-friendly. I think the biggest lesson here is really one that's based on history. And as Commissioner Hertzler said, when the Articles of Agreement were last written and revised, and as the organization existed prior to 2003, it made a lot of sense to have that particular structure because all three counties were relying on the Regional Planning Commission to provide the base services that were needed. They basically saw efficiency in having a multi-county organization there, and that's, I'm sure, why it existed in that way. In 2003, when Cumberland County established its own planning department, it became a lot like every other surrounding county, except for Dauphin and Perry counties. And yet, Cumberland County, I think, in good faith and with a good attitude, remained in the Tri-County Planning Commission, even though at that time it really didn't serve the base function anymore. So, along the last 14 years or so, we've had this situation where, the organization wasn't really meeting the true needs of the three members because Cumberland County was different and provided its own services, much like the other counties who work or Adams or Lancaster County or Franklin County would. So, it led to this sort of departure from the attitude of the Tri-County staff and administration, who were thinking in the old way, if you will, providing these services from the top down to the members, to really what this county's needs were. I thought that the exercise we went through had a reasonable chance of success in terms of redefining how the costs are shared. If you have administrative services that are being provided to Perry and Dauphin counties, the costs ought to be split along those ways. And if there were some general unallocated administrative costs, they should be minimal because those are administrative costs that aren't really attached to any identifiable function of the organization, and maybe those could be shared for on some pro rata basis. But with the draft budget and the way that things are unfolding here, it looks like there's not that core interest on the part of the three boards of county commissioners for the three member counties to do this sort of wholesale revision. And in truth, maybe it ought not be done because really you're trying to create and maintain a regional planning commission where all three members don't have the same needs, they're different. So it's certainly disappointing if this county were to withdraw from that organization. But I think in terms of looking at the historical perspective, it's not shocking or surprising. What may be more of a surprise that Cumberland County maintained its membership for such a long time when its needs weren't really being met by the organization, the Regional Planning Commission itself. It was being met more by our needs. And I think one thing that's fairly persuasive in looking at the potential withdrawal is the idea that Cumberland County has the type of cooperative relationships at a regional point of view with its neighboring counties who have their own planning departments. And again, with not any additional cost or overhead associated with that. So I think it's possible to have good relations with each of our adjacent and nearby counties on planning issues without having a structure that may be antiquated and not quite fit with the current situation. So, but I at least want to, emphasize that I chaired those subcommittee meetings and all three entities participated. They gave it a good try and really spent some time with it. Even Dauphin County's representatives, Skip Memmi, spent a good amount of time working through various draft language pieces and revisions that might have brought us closer. But I think it doesn't sound, to my understanding, that at the county commissioner level there might have been the same buy-in for the kind of wholesale bridges. But
And just for the benefit of my colleagues, because I have been in touch with the liaison commissioners from Perry and Dauphin County on the status of their consideration of the subcommittee recommendations, and they have not indicated one way or the other as to whether, and when they might consider those changes. The reason we have to consider this now, and you may have covered it, Kirk, but I think it's worth repeating, is because the current articles of agreement require that if a county used to withdraw, that we have to give 3 months' notice. And so, if we are to consider this, it has to be considered now. Otherwise, we continue to remain a member, I think, legally in 2016. So, whether we signal our notice of withdrawal as a result of this discussion today and whatever action might occur, the fact of the matter is that at this point in time, there has been no action taken by any of the counties on the draft recommendation of the subcommittee. So,
Jim, do we know if they've even shared it with their other boards?
yes,
They have.
it's been shared.
Well, I think the transportation issue has been the sort of, I'm looking at parks at their garden and, it's, oh, you can't do this, you can't do this. Oh, no, there's all of this money. This is gonna, jeopardize and, how could you irresponsibly jeopardize, that? That's been answered to me. So I don't know if anyone else needs any further answers on it, but that question has well been explained and answered to me, so.
There are some other questions, and I've heard from some of our local officials relative to this. And in fact, John, this might be a good time for you to raise the question that you asked me.
I simply had a question about the regional connections grants, because I know it's been beneficial. Recently, Penn Township received a grant to do a study on Route 233. And I was wondering what the impact would be if we were to withdraw, if Cumberland County were to withdraw from the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. Do we have any kind of access to similar funds and similar grants? I think that money is provided by the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, they're federal transportation dollars, John. As I would see it, municipalities would still have access to that. I did notice in this year's budget proposal, now there's a proposal that as part of our $80,000 of money we're paying them, that now we're paying to administer those grants. So it would be my recommendation.
How much are the grants?
Well, the Penn Township was like 20-something.
So let's review. So it's a $20,000 grant, maybe it's a match, maybe it's not, we've just saved $80,000.
Yeah.
Not that that would absolutely go there.
Yeah, and
But-
if the grants are an issue, there's money to be saved. We could, if the board so choose, we could put that back into grant program for the municipalities that has fewer strings, broader use, and would actually, we have some standards that are resolving something. But to see and hear now that all of a sudden there's administration being charged us for regional connections is disturbing to me, because in the history of the county planning department, the millions and millions of dollars that we've administered, more than the regional connections grant program, we've got to charge $1 of administration fees. Even back when we got $2.3 million worth of Department of Energy money, I could have hired somebody At $55,000 a year to do it, we didn't do it, because we're concerned about getting stuff done at the local level. I don't believe that is the same case here. I believe it's concerned about getting money in, but not seeing the results at the local level.
And Kirk, I understand it, and I feel your frustration. I know where you're coming from. It is disconcerting. I know that, you know, we have signaled since I became a commissioner that, you know, we should, you know, try to reform the organization. I even suggested at one point, you know, you got a three-legged stool here. When one of the legs is falling off, you try to address it, you know. And, you know, we've worked at it. I think there was a good faith, as Scott mentioned, good faith effort on your part, good faith effort on Scott's part, good faith effort on the part of our partners, you know, the other counties as well. But I've always felt, and I think this is one of the biggest concerns, is that this has been a top-down process as opposed to from the grassroots up. I mean, what's important to us is working with our municipal leaders and our local government officials. Because at the end of the day, when you talk about planning, it's our local municipalities that have the statutory, you know, wherewithal to determine what kind of development, where it's going to go, how, you know, how we're going to do this, that, or the other thing. That's in the hands of the local municipalities. And to the extent of the county that we can help work with our local municipalities to coordinate, that's fine. But there is nothing in law that says that we have to have a regional, top-down, you know, organization. So, as we've considered all of this, and as we are going to continue to consider, I think that's one of the things that I would like to emphasize, that, you know, with respect to government and the way it works in Pennsylvania, I still think it works best from the grassroots up instead of the top down. You know, we tried. I think we've worked really hard to see whether or not we can, you know, how we can make this fit, how we can make it work in everybody's best interest. And I would have to agree that, you know, I think we've reached the point where, you know, we need to make a decision in the interests of our county. Now, again, my overriding concern has to do with transportation funding, because I'm also a liaison to HATS. And Kirk, could you maybe cover what you learned?
Yeah, so earlier this year, we started the discussions on this. I had received a call from Keith Lynch at FHWA, Federal Highway Administration. Had him come in, he actually met Larry and I to go over these issues. So it was interesting to see his reaction when we started laying issues out, because the feedback he had been getting is that Cumberland County wants to focus on MPO, which wasn't the case. So as we went over these issues, said, hey, I think what you have is reasonable. I sent him at the time some background materials on the actions we were considering. He looked at it and said, from their standpoint, actually I had another email from him yesterday before we went to this meeting, said that it's not a requirement for us to be a member of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission to participate in the HATS and receive the transportation funding certification. So again, it's two separate. Regional Planning Commission over here, HATS over here. If there's any linkages, we've made our indication to FHWA that hey, we're ready and willing to do anything we can to make sure our transportation funding is there. And with FHWA, it was clear to me from the meeting we had that losing your transportation funding is an absolute last resort that nobody will see or will let happen, let alone over $80,000 for a regional program that has no relationship to the transportation program.
And I think he went through and looked at that too. Okay.
I want to give
Yeah.
John and the rest of the Planning Commission members any other input. Appreciate you guys taking time out today.
All I can really say is I think Kirk and the staff have done a great job in going through this and with the fine-tooth comb. I fully support his approach here to try to make it work, and I trust his decision ultimately.
I'd like to speak. I served on the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission several years ago with Commissioner Eichelberger. I remember driving to Harrisburg, parking in a very dismal, poorly lit parking garage, and then going into a building where there was 30-some people and nothing was ever discussed except the budget for a project up the river somewhere. So I dealt with that for a year, then I resigned because I saw absolutely no reason for me to spend my free time down there when I wanted to be involved like I am with the County Planning Commission. I think that the money that we're spending to subsidize two other counties is a total waste to our taxpayers and our planning commission, who could be doing so much more with that money. Kirk and Jeff and all the planning commission, they do so much for this county. We can do much better by ourselves in this realm. Hats, I think, is truly a regional matter. But as far as planning goes, Cumberland County is second to none. We're about the fastest growing county in the state of Pennsylvania. Well, I think we can do better. We do very well on our own, obviously. So I think it's time that we can't keep trying to keep up with the Joneses. We have nothing in common for planning with these two other counties anymore. And I think it's time we just invest in Cumberland County. Keep the money local. That's where it's important. As a municipal manager, I have been for over 10 years. I know the importance of planning. I've been on the other side of the table prior to that, so I understand planning, understand the importance, and what these guys provide to us at the municipal level is amazing information. They're always willing to help, and I think if we reinvest the funds that we're spending to help other counties out, will be much wisely spent here.
John, the only thing where I might, if you allow me to disagree with you, is when you said we have nothing in common with Dauphin and Perry County.
I meant for planning, sir.
Yeah, well, I think what's important is, from this discussion, is that we point out that this should not be misconstrued as a lack of interest on Cumberland County's part with respect to working with our surrounding counties, all of our surrounding counties, on all issues of mutual interest and concern. We are not an island unto ourselves. We do, have to cooperate with. And I've stressed this in the conversations that I've had with our colleagues in Dauphin and Perry counties. I think one of the points that needs to be made, we cooperate with York County, we cooperate with Adams, we cooperate with Franklin County, but it doesn't cost us money to cooperate. I don't think there should be a price tag on cooperation and working together on issues of mutual interest and concern. So, if anything comes out of this, I wouldn't want it to be misconstrued as, Cumberland County wants to go on its own. And, is not concerned with respect to the region as a whole, we are fortunate to all play a role in helping to represent.
If it sounded better, I apologize, that's not what I meant. What I meant is if there's 3 counties, one has a planning commission, I think we're well ahead of the game.
Yeah.
That's what, thank you.
No, I didn't think you meant that we did.
Yes, sir.
Some people might take it, that's all.
Barb?
Sorry.
I just wanted to say that I'm sure, commissioners, that in all of the years that you've gone through budget hearings, you've never asked or you've never heard a request to reduce funding. Well, that's what we're doing today, because we would like to see the funding go to our Cumberland County Planning Commission, our planning department. It's an excellent service for not only the county, but all of the municipalities that you represent. We've always had, as a former township manager, we've always had a very healthy relationship with the county planning staff. And we've never had that with Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, ever. I can't say one instance from my time as a township manager where we have worked cooperatively with Tri-County. I do want to say on behalf of the Planning Commission that in January of this past year, our Planning Commission made a motion to recommend to Cumberland County Board of Commissioners that the Articles of Agreement be updated with Dauphin and Perry counties, or suspend funding of the regional administration and only fund the transportation and regional growth management plan. That was an action by our Planning Commission. I have it if you'd like to have this. When you have the copy. We are serious about duplication of services and spending money that we don't need to spend. And we really don't want to see that happen. We know your budget is tight. We know that there are many cases within your budget that need to be increased in funding. And we just don't want to see us spend, as a county resident, I don't want to see us spend money that we don't have to spend. We can have that, Kirk, if you want to see it. And we would just ask you to please authorize Kirk to send the letter withdrawing from Tri-County with the caveat that we will continue to work on an update of the Articles of Agreement. We want to be cooperative in whatever issues we are working on, but we just don't want to be pushed into a corner to fund something that we don't need and that we are not getting services for our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So I would just like to back up because I remember Jim Zaborski when he was, I think, the executive director of the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. And I was going to say that, probably the better way to put it is that we've grown out of the need for Tri-County Regional Planning Commission to be, because I'm telling you, Tri-County Regional Planning Commission did a good job for us before, we had our own planning department. So, over the years, and again, I'll go back to, before I got elected, apparently there must have been an interest in continuing to belong to Tri-County. Up until, before I became a county commissioner, just 3 years and 9 months ago. But I do think it's reached a point where we have to prioritize, what is really important. And are the services that we're getting so few now that it doesn't make any sense. And I think that's probably the better way to.
I would agree that we do want to continue the relationship. We would like to see the relationship continue. It's healthy to continue regional cooperative relationships, but only when they're cooperative. Kirk cited the instances where we work with the other counties, and no money has to go back and forth. We have the services that we can swap back and forth, and we've offered them numerous times, and it's never been accepted. So I think that we do need to consider that.
There's obviously no flexibility, in that conversation. So I think that has more than set my decision, on this withdrawal. And whether or not the board today has a workshop item on Monday for that letter. Public meeting today, sunshine, decision today, or at a forum on Monday.
Kirk, when does they need to receive it 90 days out? What is that?
30.
30 days. Okay. Needs to be in hand to them.
Wingman, road trip.
I would like to ask, just, have you had, or have we had conversations with our 33 municipalities on this subject at all?
We've discussed at our outreach meetings before.
Could I answer that too?
Go ahead, Mark.
At the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission in March, I attended, and I made that statement then that we were looking at this. We wanted to see the Articles of Agreement updated, and we wanted to see a more equitable relationship with Cumberland County. So at least that was done in March.
Yeah, no, I'm interested in other words, you mentioned this at the outreach meetings with our
No, Tri-County
What I'm
Regional
talking
Planning
about, we
Commission.
have 33 municipalities in
Oh.
Cumberland County. And what communication have we had with our 33 municipalities with respect to our consideration of potential withdrawal?
We've had discussions in the past over, Tri-County issues. We haven't had a discussion on withdrawal. I think it's primarily driven by, obviously, we're the funding organization. And we believe, I believe, that Tri-County Regional Planning Commission serves counties, not municipalities. So, municipalities like the services they're getting, think they're valuable. They can pick up the share of that. But we have an excellent relationship with every one of our 33 municipalities. Any service that needs to be provided, we can provide.
That's going to be my question. What in sort of this menu of services would be so very unique that you and your staff or this staff of the county could not provide to our municipalities? I'm seeing some nobody's. John, can you think of, kind of off the top of your head?
That,
Transportation aside.
transportation.
No, I think we've sort of agreed that that transportation conversation, and again, I'm not gonna be held hostage to this, don't pay this bill because you won't get any money. I moved past that. That has been answered for me. What I'm saying is, what in the realm of planning would be that void that we would have to buy that service from this particular vendor? And I'm hearing none.
I don't see anything.
I was a township manager at South Middleton from 1990 to 2012, and I never had a relationship with.
Would you picked up the phone and said, I'm gonna call Tri-County
No.
first? You
No.
would have called in to our,
Yes,
the county
absolutely.
planning department first.
Yes.
And I think through
And
MAP,
that's where it started.
this conversation has been on the agenda and percolated for quite some time, of the services that this planning department, the county, provides to the municipalities. So I'm not gonna delay this.
I didn't
and-
suggest we delay. I just
Well-
thought it was a question worth asking. You know, and I also believe that Kirk is in touch with all of our municipalities, and his planning department is in touch with all of our municipalities. And I'm just kind of like, I'm asking the question only because I'm curious as to whether or not there would be any objections that we haven't heard.
From the ones I've talked to you specifically about, I haven't heard any objections.
Kirk, let me ask you a question. In terms of, I guess this is kind of an offshoot of what Barbara just asked, and that is, you've asked Tri-County, in regards to potential cooperative efforts, what it is that they want to partner with us on, and they have not suggested anything to you. In your opinion, are there any regional planning needs aimed in that direction, the greater Harrisburg area, which we are part of? Are there any planning needs that we should be part of that we can suggest to them?
Yeah. And that's the thing, Gary. I think it's, when you look at regional planning of what we need, I just don't see need. You know, Perry County, I mean, they're to our north, our neighbor, most of their municipalities don't have zoning. We're looking at advanced cutting-edge zoning techniques that are pretty complex. There's a mismatch. Dauphin County, you know, in some cases, transportation, obviously we share some commuter movements. If folks want to work with us on certain issues, I think we have, you know, affinity to the south with York County, Adams County. We've been working great on the South Mountain Partnership. There's results to show that, and we haven't paid $1 for that. So if there's regional issues out there, we're all ears, and we're willing to work with anybody, Dauphin and Perry County included. But we simply don't want to pay for those services, and we don't need to pay on an annual basis and have someone make up a work program to you know, address issues that really don't exist.
Yeah, it's pretty clear from the last few years of negotiations that they're trying to just keep a bureaucracy alive. It's a group without a mission, quite frankly, is what it appears to be to a lot of us. So, but my question really is, are there opportunities for quote-unquote regional cooperation with Dauphin County in particular that we aren't realizing, or that we would suggest to them to do bilaterally, as you suggest? Is there anything that we're missing?
Nothing's come to the table in the time that I was meeting with, you know, the Tri-County staff on a quarterly basis to discuss. When we talked about what we're doing,
Yeah.
no opportunities. And there's some things we discussed, but nothing ever came out of it. But we discussed providing joint training. Tri-County likes the third-party approach of hiring someone else to come in to do it, which we pay for. I like the hands-on approach where we actually do the training. We talked about that. That never happened. We talked about having joint county planning commission meetings on a regular basis and move them from county to county to discuss issues of regional significance. That never happened. So, and I think there's an over-reliance then on this regional commission where you've appointed municipal folks, which, you know, they've served us great and they do great things. But we also have county planning commission members who are very much in touch, have been appointed with due respect to geography, that basically get ignored as Tri-County reaches from the regional level down to the municipal level.
That was one of the other things that came up relative to the, you know, the 31 members of this commission. And one of the, I think the questions was brought up at the last executive committee meeting was, those folks, how are they going to have input? And I said, you know what, these meetings, Tri-County Regional Planning Commission meetings, are all open to the public. Anybody can come to those meetings, and then like you pointed out just now, each one of our planning commissions, you know, has representations from, you know, all over the counties, whether that be Dauphin, Perry, or Cumberland. I mean, in addition, Tri-County Regional Planning Commission, Perry County and Dauphin County also have their own planning commissions, just like we do here. He's sitting back there, he's real quiet, and I don't
Oh,
want to
stop
point a
that.
finger, but, no, I wanted to ask Rick Tranowski, because Rick's a member of the executive committee, and I've learned that he's a really smart guy. And I really-
Thank you.
I really-
I share the same opinion.
Rick, I appreciate like your thoughts on this, because you've been going to all these meetings and.
Excuse me.
Yeah, good to see you, thank you.
Thank you.
My frustration only goes back 3 years, on which time I was on Tri-County. And it seems, from what I'm hearing and from the people more experienced than me, that Dauphin and Perry County needs are different than Cumberland County's needs with relationship to Tri-County. And the agreement, folks did a great job putting the best agreement together that we could get. But I'm not sure that that agreement is enough. Larry asked earlier in the meeting about the budget, and I think when you look at the agreement, and folks over there could see where that agreement was going, and they came back with this budget, which makes me think, business as usual. This agreement isn't going to change the top-down approach. We're still going to be paying one way or another for the food deserts and for trendy things in planning that may or may not be related to the Tri-County. So, it's to the point, I think you need to ask yourselves, have we had enough? Is this enough?
Rick,
Or
let me
not.
ask you a question, so in reference to what you said. So if hypothetically, those folks came back to us and said, yes, we'll accept the articles, and they came back and said, yes, we'll meet you where you need to be in terms of the budget request, would that change anything in your opinion? In terms of what the county should do?
I don't think, unless it changes the culture,
Exactly.
and I'm not sure it's going to change the culture of Troy County. There's other things that they need to do. They need to do updated bylaws. They need to put together an organizational manual, and they need to get something other than that top-down approach that they've been using. I've been going to these meetings, and you sit there and you kind of nod your head, you go over the expenses, and that's about all the input you have. Everything else is presented to you to accept it or not.
I'd like to note too that your frustrations with attendance there are echo what John Epley said earlier and what we've heard from a range of other individuals we've appointed there. We've had difficulty keeping those seats filled because our appointees essentially tell the commissioners it's a waste of time and they're not going to invest their personal time in it. So I think the fact that you hear that over and over the years, I stopped going years ago and we just sent a cart, frankly.
I volunteered because nobody else wanted to do it.
Right.
Right.
So,
And my point is.
And now I know why I was appointed as the leader.
Yeah, you're the guy. But my concern is, a year from now, will anything have changed? So as that budget is prepared, as a new board of commissioners prepares to look at the county, failing to do something now, what will in 12, 24, or whatever months change? Probably not a lot, because the expectation is that Cumberland County will open the checkbook, pay this bill, rather than being fully engaged in the needs that that bill is going to. So,
Mark, we were exactly at that point about.
I'm sorry?
We were exactly at the same point back in February, January,
Well, exactly.
February. We made an attempt for change, the budget document that was submitted kind of capped it for me.
and if any organization actually should probably be looking at this long-range budgeting for planning purposes, maybe they should have the 24-month budget. Granted, there are grants and, state funding sources that are on 12-month, but really, a year is not sufficient, in my opinion, for a, full planning department of 3 counties. They're not looking far enough ahead. This is not a 12-month project. These are, I would imagine, the expectation of larger length of time projects. And I'm not even seeing that type of creativity coming from this organization. But
I just want to point out that the statute that allows for the formation of regional planning commissions has been in effect for something like 50 years. And in that time, apparently there have only been 2 instances in the whole Commonwealth with all the different possible combinations where counties saw some benefit in forming and maintaining an organization. So it's certainly not an unusual situation. 95% of the counties in the Commonwealth believe that, a formal regional planning commission doesn't have intrinsic benefits.
I'd say that echoes, I think, what Commissioner Herzler said earlier, which is we've simply outgrown. The times change, circumstances change, but that organization needs to change. It has a lot. That said, I'm prepared to make a motion today that we authorize the sending of a letter to Tri-County notification.
I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion on the letter that we have all seen and commented on?
Yeah, I just want to check to make sure that this is a regularly advertised meeting.
Yes.
And I don't know whether anybody's taking minutes. Do we have anybody taking minutes at this meeting? Okay, thank you, Jen. Okay. Again, I think I just want to emphasize that I think there was due diligence done here. We, I think our staff and working with the members of the subcommittee, did what we could to try to see if we could resolve these issues. At the end of the day, it doesn't mean that we're not going to cooperate with Dauphin and Perry counties. We're going to continue to cooperate with all our neighboring counties. And I think that, as we said before, I think we've just outgrown the need to participate in the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. We have our own planning department, excellent planning department, and I am going to be interested in trying to make sure that we ensure that we get our transportation funds that we're owed, and there's no monkey business at the Harrisburg Area Transportation Study. With this, in this respect. So, the fact that we're going to continue to contribute, I think we've mentioned that, we're going to continue to contribute our share of whatever those requirements are to fund the transportation aspects of Harrisburg Area Transportation Study. That's going to be important in this, but I think this is the right decision for Cumberland County at this time.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any further comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks very much. Anything else?